But we will wait for no one. We will begin. All right, so welcome everybody. It's going to be pretty exciting this weekend. From tomorrow, so everyone's attending the workshop and the conference? Yeah. Great, great. So, good afternoon everyone. What a very, very exciting conference we have ahead of us. Now, before I start to awaken your inner genius, let me first introduce myself. My name is Maria Pau. I've completed my Master's in Psychology degree at University of Queensland and currently a PhD candidate. I wrote about my personal story and the reason I'm so inspired by my vision of eradicating the harms caused by addiction and addictive behaviours. It is actually on your table right now. That one there? Yes. So that way I don't have to keep reliving my story and keep telling my story. You'll see that I have that and my other ¡1 best-selling books. They're both there. I think we've run out. That's all we had with us. So we've put it there in front of you. They're continuing to make waves on Amazon, and it's a great resource that we use to inspire addicts to turn away from their vices. We also use it for fundraising, for our amazing cause, which by the way we will do today because we are a not-for-profit charity, so please don't spill any water or coffee or anything on there. It's just there for you as a tangible thing to have a look at, so that if you wanted to look at it, then you can see, you know, so I don't have to explain it and repeat myself. So the charity that I founded 5 years ago is called Coaching with Substance, and it's a registered public benevolent institution with deductible gift recipient status, so when you donate to our fantastic cause, you get it back in next to no time because tax time is almost here. So in the last couple of weeks, we're able to raise about $9,000. You know, all of it is self-funded, so we don't have any type of grants or anything like that from any government bodies. It's just me working really hard to help the people with addiction issues. So we use the books as fundraising, and then we've also started to do a online possible or crowdfunding campaign. And as you can see, before 95,000 views on YouTube, and we're really active on social media because that's where the people with addiction, they've got groups, they've got all sorts of things happening. So we're out there at the forefront with all of the volunteers and we're reaching out into the community. So all of the followers and the fans, they're organic, and we really take the time to connect with them, see what's happening in their lives, and really see how we can help them. Give Now, as you can see, Coaching with Substance has raised $26,000 just on that portal. Does anyone know if givenow.com.au? Yeah, there's one lady there. Anyone else? So on that portal, there's about 300, it says in there's about 300,000 charities in the whole of Australia. And I'm not sure if you know the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, they said that only 25,000 charities reported, meaning there's only about 30,000 with DGR status. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that we can use the government's money to be a win-win for all of us. So people, when they donate, the government matches what they donate to. And that's a great thing for young grassroots companies or not-for-profits like the one that I founded, because you know, there's really not much grants out there. The grants are very competitive, and the people that are winning the grants are the Mission Australias and the bigger kind of institutions, which is fair enough. They've got all the statistics, so that's why that happens. So before I proceed, let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm sure you're ready. Who was here in the workshop before? Great, yeah, I did see. And first workshop today? Oh, a couple of people. Okay, so make sure the phone is on silent and really respect the reason that we're here today. We're due to finish at 5 p.m, but I'm sure there'll be many of you that may want to talk to me, or Moira and Anthony and Amy. They're really very powerful in their own right. So are all of you. I looked at the list and I'm thinking, wow, we can really collaborate and really make some difference together. So we're here to stay after 5 if you care to talk to us for a little bit longer. And if you do have a question, I invite you to write it down and email it to me because yeah, it just respects the time. We've only got 9 minutes to really talk today, and it's really important that I get through the content. Now, there's a couple more things in my notes. Facebook, we've covered that. Now, funny thing is, when it comes to activity, and as you saw there's many activity on our social media, which is really, activity is really just energy moving at a fast pace. I have that covered. Why? Because as you can see in my book, I transformed my bipolar into efficiency and my mania into productivity. There was a time when I used to be desolate, but I'm now inspired. Many times when I used to be suicidal, but I'm now spirit-led. Now, what do I mean by spirit-led? Well, we are all spirit-led. How do I know that? Well, do you have someone talking in your head right now? Well, that's what I call spirit. It can be called many different things. And doctors say that it's hallucinations for me back in those days, but I've now changed my language and I call that miraculous insight. So I'm not the only one spirit-led in the room. I work with a great team. 3 of them are here today, and I said before, it would be really great if we can talk to you about where your calling is so we can see how we can really work together. So without further ado, let's have a look at what today's talk is going to be about. Has anyone heard of The Secret? Yes, great. So Dr. John Demartini is one of the people that was there, and we've got his prodigy here with us, and he's going to be talking a little bit for about half an hour about the teachings of the Demartini method, and I'll also be talking about why recovery coaching and why now. You know, why is it needed to collaborate? Why is it needed to really inspire clients, to really excite clients, to really get them energized and move them away from pharmacology and disease into miracles and all sorts of things that is evidence-based. So I'm going to talk about all of that today. And then why coaching with substance is at the forefront, why we are pioneering this, what I'm doing my PhD on.
Anybody that had read 300,000 books and was a leader in andrology before. And as I listened to him speak, I just couldn't believe what I saw. I remember picking up my first book after doing my first collapse. After 20 years of what most people would label an abusive relationship with my father, and a regular conversation involved a couple of F's and a few M words thrown in, that was like a hello. I dissolved that in 48 hours. I had tears of gratitude and I was inspired by what was to come after that. After dissolving that in 48 hours, I went home and connected with my father. I'm 31 now, we have not had a fight since that day. Inspired by that, I decided to find out, because I wanted to know what the fabric of this universe was made out of. And when I went home, I remember sitting in a bed thinking, I've never really read a book, but I was dedicated. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew I was going to achieve that goal. Maria is someone that is very close to my heart, that 3 years ago when we spoke about that goal, now I get an opportunity to talk in front of leaders. So I want to thank you for being here. So I want to start off by saying that addiction is a label, and that no human being has more or less of an addiction than any other human being. Mattering on what you find most valuable, meaning that of which is important to you, and the word important means that you want to import it into your mind and your sphere of awareness, you will be labeled by others as being addictive. So my girlfriend works in fashion at a label called Basic, and she talks a lot about high-end fashion and productivity. So when she talks, I find her to be a little bit too addicted to fashion. And I enjoy going to the gym twice a day and working with my clients 13 hours a day. But she labels me as being addicted to my work. Now, neither of us is addicted. It's merely a label on a comparison of the other person's value. Does that make sense? When one person labels another person based on their set of values, we have the word addiction. Our job and our role is to find those that have taken that to the extreme, that are physically harming their body. Beyond that, we call it socially acceptable. Then we merely transform that addiction into something that is more socially acceptable and allows them to live an inspired lifestyle. So that's how I'll be talking about addiction. And I'll also be referring to the word addiction. Ad meaning move towards. In an addiction case, the person is heavily and moving their energy directly towards something that is damaging them and their health and their psychology, biology, and physiology. And addiction meaning something that they're moving away. But there's never something that we're moving towards without trying to get away from something. But that'd be pain and pleasure in a lot of cases. I'm also going to redefine the word inspiration versus motivation. Inspiration I'm going to label as intrinsic. It comes inside of you and nobody has to tell you to do that. Motivation is merely a symptom of external factors. Whenever somebody tries to project their set of values onto you, like a child that loves playing video games and his parents have to try and get it to sleep, he is inspired to play video games. But he needs motive to stop playing video games. Does that make sense? So I'm going to refer to motivation as merely a symptom of lower values, not something that I do through inspirational speaking. I want to draw out from leaders what is already inside of them that is intrinsic, that awakens inner and true genius. I'm also going to refer to the word goals as destiny, and destiny is going to be referred to as a destination in space and time. Every human being and every person on this planet has a destiny and a destination that they're seeking to fulfill in their lives. And whenever we awaken that and achieve that, we awaken attention surplus order, information retention order, we become organized, disciplined, and reliable. I once dated a girl that was so great at shopping, she was organized, disciplined, reliable, and focused. She had more month at the end of her money than money at the end of her month. We got 10% over her credit card. It was absolutely organized in that area. I've worked with children at the age of 10, and I worked with a young girl that was an amazing basketball player. She was also had visions of becoming a hairdresser, and her dad said she just doesn't appreciate maths. It was low on her values. Neurologically, she was programmed to go out and play basketball, because you could ask her any question about basketball and she'd have it like that. The Melanization was there already to access that information. But whenever you spoke to her about mathematics, because she saw that it had nothing to do with her values, she would and and look around and just have absolutely no clue. So she was programmed for that. So I believe every human being has a destination that they're looking to acquire and achieve. And when we're talking about an inspirational workshop, we're not just talking about setting goals. When I get into the values section, you'll see that when we set oblivious goals that have nothing to do with anything and unalign with our values, then all we do is procrastinate, hesitate, and need motivation. That's merely a symptom reflecting back to us for our psychology and our physiology in the real world that we're setting unrealistic goals. So the purpose of goals is to expand a client's sphere of awareness, influence, and confidence. So whenever we're setting goals with a client, one of the major things that we want to do is assist a client to be greater than themselves. And in order to do that, the therapist, coach, healer, whatever it is that you name yourself, must have a sphere that is much greater than the problem that they're working with. Anytime a client works with someone that is yet to expand beyond the sphere in which they're trying to assist the client with, they'll both get stuck in the same hole. So we ourselves have to continue to educate ourselves and make sure that we're expanding our sphere to ever greater heights so we can expand the capabilities of what we can do with our clients. So that is our purpose. Our goals are to set fulfilling goals. Anytime we set goals for the sake of giving a client goals, they will procrastinate, hesitate, need motivation, and they will judge themselves. So who here, growing up or in any other time in their life, has had somebody project their values onto them and trying to get you to do something you didn't want to do? Who's done that before? And who built resentment while that was happening and they felt that the other person was careless? I'm going to find 3 types of communication: careless, caring, and careful. I watch this in relationships when I do about 4 relationship cases a week, and I watch this, where one particular person will talk to their partner and be careless. They'll take their values, they'll value them higher than what they value their clients, and they'll talk down to them. This builds unconscious resentment within the client, whoever's being spoken down to, in order to equilibrate the action. because we all want to be spoken to and respected for who we are. Who would say? Correct. So that's care less, because you care less about their values, more about yours. Then there's careful. I watch this in relationships where one partner infatuates over another, puts them on a pedestal, and whenever this happens, they're careful like they're walking on eggshells. Who's been careful in a relationship before? So we've done that as well. But we also build up unconscious resentment because we want them to love us for us and we want to express ourselves to our true being. Then there is caring. When we're being caring, we've got an open heart to heart and we're respecting the other person's values as well as ours. So when we're setting truly fulfilling goals, we're respecting the client's highest values, who they are intrinsically as a person, and we're setting goals in space and time that are directly proportionate to what they're capable of achieving and would mean something to them. Which leads me to values, which to me is a cornerstone of human behaviour. I've studied many different fields and I've seen values explained in a lot of different ways. I'm going to explain the Demartini value. That's Dr. John Demartini. And you can ask us about that later because I'm used to doing workshops and working with clients, but generally about 12 hours a day talk. So I've got about half an hour today. I'm going to sum that down to what I can and talk as fast as I can. But feel free to ask questions. According to Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher, the word value means void, that of which we perceive to be missing. Every human being has a set of values and there's a values hierarchy, from our most to our least important. Who would say there are things in their life that they highly value that they will move anything to make sure that they achieve? And who has things that are so low in their values that you need a hell of a lot of motive to even get up out of bed to do that? So we all have a set of values. Quite often we attract partners that are the complementary opposite. We think there's something wrong with them, there may be, but quite often they just have a different set of values. You understand that? And our children and our family members, when we have the same set of values, we call them friends. When we have opposite values, we call them enemies. To the degree that set of values are more separate, the more we will dislike that person. According to Carl Jung, that is merely our disowned parts. But an understanding of values gives us a great understanding of what a human being will do and what they're most likely to achieve throughout their life. Within our highest values, we're inspired from within. Nobody has to tell us to go out and do that. So due to the void, meaning an area that's missing that we're trying to fulfill, I've worked with clients in the past with addiction where they had addiction for relationships. And when I did a bit of research into their history and their emotional background, I found out, I remember one case where a gentleman's mum left him when he was 2. And due to that, he had an addiction for affection from women. So any relationship that he got into, he felt that he needed to hold that woman as close as possible, and he had the fear of losing the female comfort, so he jumped from relationship to relationship regardless of whether it was working or not. So nobody had to tell him within his highest values to look for the connection towards a female loved one. He was inspired from within. For anything lower in a person's values, we need motivation. So the first part of the word inspired is in, so I'm going to label it as intrinsic. And the first part of the word motive is motivation, is motive. You need motive to do that. Anything that is highest in our values, we're automatically organized, disciplined, reliable, and focused. So I have a strict 13-hour work schedule. I work 7 days a week, and I love that. I've been doing that for years. And I've had people say to me, how do you do that? Because I've got such a large value for that area, that's what I do. I remember when I was younger, I used to play basketball at school 2 hours before I start, recess, lunch, after school. I played 3 different contests. Now I'm 31, I'm not that old, but if I haven't ran for years, on a basketball court, if I do it once, I straight away, I need motive to do that. So once we find out what a human being's highest values are, we find out where their brain and their physiology is neurologically programmed and maximizes its performance and its potential. Our ability to tap into that is the ability to assist our client to maximize their growth. The complementary opposite to that is them being unorganized, undisciplined, unreliable, and unfocused. The young girl that I spoke to you about that I worked with, her father came in, we were dissolving bedwetting and a few other items. And then he said, if you have some time, can you help her and assist her to appreciate mathematics? Because I think that would help her growing up. She was 10. So we spent an hour values linking how mathematics would assist her in the 7 areas of life. We have an addiction in this society for labelling young children with ADD when they merely do not see the value in doing what they're being told. If we take an adult and we ask it to do mathematics and it doesn't appreciate maths, we just say, John doesn't like that subject. But when a child does it, when we impose our values, they build resentments, dis-ease within their physiology and trying to overcome it. So I understood the unique genius that needed to be inspired from this young girl. And how many of you would say if you wanted to become an amazing hairdresser, she was a little beauty queen, she looked just like her mother, worked at the family, and you wanted to play basketball, that maths would not even be on your radar? Who would say that? So I spent an hour with her re-neurologically programming the association to that. On a board, working in her model of the world, I had a little bit of fun. It was probably one of my fun clients that day. I'll make up that word now, fun. I wrote down the 7 areas of her life and her highest value, and we started playing a game to see how many different reasons and ways we could find that mathematics would assist her. So we started drawing on the board, and I said, would you be able to collect images of a salon, and would you be able to mathematically calculate exactly what all the pieces would cost? Go, yeah. I could see the neurologist just firing. Now you could see that she was becoming awake. Before, her physiology was doing this. She was going, come on, what are you going to do? But now she became awake. Because the more we see things in our values, we open up to people, the more they're away from our values, our physiology moves away from it. I said, if you want to be an amazing WNBA basketball player, are you going to have to play in America? She said, well, yeah. I said, is that going to be far away from your parents? She said, yes. Having worked with her dad in the area of finances, I said, if you do not watch what you're doing, can your accountant text me your money? She goes, yeah, I've seen that happen with Dad. And I said, but if you're great at maths and you have a mathematical genius mind, can you fly your parents overseas and do some really cool things and put them in really great hotels? And she started going, yeah, actually I can. And I said, when you explain to other students, if you're going to be a great basketball player, are other kids going to want to learn from you? She said, yes, they will. I said, so if you could tell them what angle to throw the ball at, what shape the ball is, what shape the court is, specifically what angles and everything you want to work with, would that allow you to get very finite and very definite about how you want to explain everything you want to get done? I said, yes. At the end of that hour, her dad walked in, she looked at her dad and said, Dad, we get some maths books, I'm ready to become an amazing basketball player. He couldn't believe what he'd saw. But neurologically now it was on the way, not in the way. By the time we'd finished, we'd stacked up enough reasons for it to neurologically reprogram her association. Within our highest values, we have attention surplus order, information retention order. We retain information. That is why when you ask someone about something high in their values, they intrinsically can answer automatically. But when you ask somebody about something lower in their values, you'll see them procrastinate and hesitate for a little bit. That is their identity, and they're energized. Who here has been tired or experiencing disease and not well, and then had an opportunity to do something you love, and all of a sudden energy came? I've got a little cousin who I remember was extremely sick one day, and I said to him, would you like me to come pick you up and play PlayStation? And his mum goes, oh, he hasn't been out of bed for days. Apparently he just walked straight out and said, yeah, tell him to come over, I'll be sick at his house. So he had energy and vitality directly proportionate to his highest values. Whenever we set goals in alignment with our clients' highest values, we awaken vitality and energy. Whenever we have goals set towards their lower values, they display symptoms of attention deficit disorder. Now, I've been known for saying this, my mentor taught me this. Every single person in this room and every person I know has ADD and attention deficit disorder. It's just in an area that you don't appreciate and an area that you do appreciate. If you were to take my day and completely throw it apart and put me into cake decorating for a day and test me, I would have attention deficit disorder. I would have no interest in that field. But if you were to take me and test me on human psychology, biology, and really push me to the extremes, I've done seminars for 14 hours, so I've just sat there and listened, and I could just be in tune. That's where you have a misidentity. Whatever's highest in your value, a person will identify themselves with. And they take time and space, and it shrinks. You notice when you do what you love, time and space shrinks. You go, I can't believe it. Where did the time go? And when you're doing something that you don't appreciate, time and space expand. You go, how bloody long is this thing going to take? Every single human being is warping the fabric of space and time based on their perception. Whenever we're doing something we love, we take challenge and support equally. So if we're taking challenge and support equally, that means that we have the ability to take on those goals and acquire and achieve the results that we want. Whenever we're doing things that are lower in our values, we become juvenile dependent, we perceive more challenge and support, and we don't do it. We're talking about awakening your inner genius and your higher values, because people will label you a genius because you love what you're doing, do what you love. And in your lower values, they'll call you an idiot now because you don't have much appreciation for it. Now, one of the ways we can do that is like what I said, where we can take these 7 areas of life, physical, there are multiple systems and ways that we've discussed this. So I'm going to use 7, but some different systems use 8 or 6. Physical, financial, mental, vocation, spiritual, social, and family. And you can write down 25 ways in each, and to do this exercise, it's just a brief look at some of the work that we do at Coaching and Substance. But if you do this alone and push a client, their neurology will completely change in their physical response to what it is you're actually assisting them with. So write down 25 ways in the 7 areas in their highest values as to how the goal that you're setting aligns with the client's mission, highest values, and this project re-neurologically programs the brain and associates the goals. Respecting the client's model of the world. I'm just going to speed up because I know I have minimal time, but I'm talking for longer. So we need to understand the client's unique set of values and also their model of the world and respect that and work with it in acquiring and achieving the goal. Awakening, so the example of that would be the young girl that I worked with. I changed my whole therapy style to talk to her. And when I did, she felt that she had a high level of rapport and she could open up to me. Awakening genius and expanding the client's sphere of awareness. Having fair exchange. Making sure that the client is completely and 100% able to by committing. If they're not going to commit to change, then it's going to really minimize potential for change. And one of the things that's very important to me is dissolving past blockages and baggage. Working with Dr. John Demartini, I learned an understanding of emotions, emotional charges, what they are. So what I guarantee when I work with my clients is the ability to dissolve fears, angers, resentments, and understanding of those, all emotional baggage. Because until we do, the client will try and achieve the goal with the same lenses. So to describe that, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So if you do not resolve some of the past baggage, how do you expect the client to move forward? They'll use the same resource. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We need to expand our spheres beyond what our client's potential is, assist them to dissolve their past, then align them with their values so they can maximize their future. So I'll talk more about the 7 areas to anybody that wants to understand more later, but I'll make sure I leave some time for Maria. Okay. So I'll give you back to Maria for now.